for breaking news and weather report.
Tonight, the shocking new twists in the hunt for the killer of the health insurance CEO. What police found inside what they believe is the shooter's backpack. The new photo of the backpack abandoned in Central Park. Inside, a stack of Monopoly money. Is it a message from the killer? The murder weapon still missing. Plus, what police revealed about his time at a hostel. Days of eating meals with his mask on. The historic moment in Paris today. The doors of Notre Dame Cathedral finally reopened, the bells ringing once again. The stunning ceremony filled with music and pageantry. Craig Melvin is there for us. President-elect Trump on the world stage, meeting with Ukraine's president. What he told our Kristen Welker exclusively about his plans for the war in Ukraine. Syria on the brink. The rebel forces closing in on the country's capital. Is the regime about to fall? A convicted murderer caught on camera escaping. The corrections officer chasing him. Why didn't he fire his weapon? Now the manhunt. And the giant drone the size of a car hovering over Pentagon leaders at a conference. The latest in a series of mystery drone sites.
These drones are coming out of who knows where.
The FBI now investigating.
This is NBC Nightly News with Jose Diaz-Balart.
Good evening. The mystery into who killed health insurance CEO Brian Thompson took another turn further into the bizarre today.
I want to stop right here. I want to make two comments. First of all, about the drones. They're going to have to put stiffer regulations pertaining to flying on things in certain areas of extremely high fines or jail time or something, because it's gotten to be obnoxious pertaining to people flying drones in areas that they shouldn't be flying drones in. And second of all, this deal right here that's going on right now with this murder of this insurance CEO, I'm beginning to wonder if it's beginning to be more and more like the murders out in California, the Zodiac murder, or the Zodiac files regarding people just doing bizarre, crazy things, basically turning death into like a game, challenging the system, challenging investigators and detectives in this matter. You know, I don't know what the backup in all this is pertaining to this insurance guy. It sounds to me like a vindictive murder. Somebody that has plotted to do something like this because of something maybe have happened personally in their life. I don't know, one way or the other. There's no doubt that the insurance companies today are really giving everybody a bad play, including hospitals and doctors and basically anybody having to deal with insurance, auto body industries, etc., because of them basically strong-arming their obligations that they've already made commitments with, and basically retaliating against those obligations, crawfishing out of those promises. And there's no doubt that the insurance companies, they have endless to say, they have raised some eyebrows for the past 15, 20 years anyways in their illegitimacies and what that they have done. And I can understand both sides of it pertaining to them being more graduate today because of so many different people out there that does want to basically commit insurance fraud. I can understand their concept of it, but at the same time, I can also understand that they've gone way, way overboard whenever it comes to people's health and them making decisions that could have spared or saved an individual's life that didn't, primarily because of them being lax in trying to hold up the approval with the doctors or the hospitals or the clinics or whatever. So, but even at that, nobody deserves to be gunned down in the middle of Broad Street in New York, right at the twilight, fixing to be wide daylight. Nobody deserves to be done that way without some sort of a trial or without some sort of a hearing. And even then, if they do something that deserves capital punishment, we have different methods and ways to do stuff like that other than to gun somebody down on the streets like that. I don't know who this guy is. I don't know what his MO is. But as far as I'm concerned, he needs to be labeled as a terrorist. And he needs to be looked at as a threat until he is apprehended. No matter where he is, no matter where he's from, no matter where he lives at or where he's going, there should be all kinds of red flags going off pertaining to people's safety and well-being. Because anybody that's willing to do anything like that, there really isn't no limitations in what they would do or wouldn't do. Especially whenever it comes to saving their own hides. You're going to gun somebody down like that? Wow. That's almost as bad as the terrorists over in Jerusalem that attacked Israel, Hamas, and then photographing, taking people's phones, and while they're raping people or butchering them up and killing them, documenting it on their phones, on live streaming. That way all their friends and their loved ones can watch whoever it is being treated that way, being violated that way, on live stream TV. Sick individuals that need to be, as far as I'm concerned, they need the capital punishment. They need the same dose of medication that they're putting out to society. They need that put back to them. Now, that's my opinion about it. It didn't cost you nothing.
For days, police have been searching Central Park looking for the backpack the killer wore during the shooting. And last night, they believe they found it. And now, they've cracked it open. Inside, Monopoly money. You know, those fake bills you use in the classic board game. It's the latest strange twist added on to the fact that the killer wrote the words depose, delay, deny on separate bullet shells found at the scene. The murder weapon still missing. But police now believe it may have been a rare gun used on farms to kill animals. And the timeline of his days in New York now more complete. Police learning key details from the two men he shared a hostel room with. Tom Winter starts us off tonight.
Tonight, crucial new evidence in the manhunt for the suspect in the targeted killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. This backpack, found in Central Park after air and ground searches, police believe is linked to the shooter seen in surveillance video. Two senior law enforcement officials say no gun was found inside. What was found? A jacket and Monopoly money. The NYPD says nothing in their investigation so far suggests the killing was related to Thompson's personal life.
The net is tightening, and we're going to bring this person to justice.
New York City Mayor Eric Adams says details like whether or not police have an ID on the shooter are being closely held.
We don't want to release that now. If you do, you're basically giving a tip to the person we're seeking, and we do not want to give him an upper hand at all.
Exactly.
But there are new details about the suspect. New York City's chief of detectives providing a timeline based on video footage to reporters. The shooter arrived in New York on Sunday, November 24th, and was caught on camera at the Port Authority bus terminal near Times Square. The bus he took originated in Atlanta, though it's not clear when the shooter got on, given that there were several stops on the way to New York. The shooter then took a taxi to the area where the shooting occurred. It was there for about a half hour before heading to a hostel on the Upper West Side, where he possibly provided a fake ID to check in. He checked out of the hostel on Friday, November 29th, but checked back in the next day. While at the hostel, the suspect had two roommates who say he kept his mask on even when eating, lowering it only when taking a bite of food. And according to a senior law enforcement official, in this one moment upon his initial arrival when flirting with a woman who worked at the front desk. The shooter left the hostel at 5:30 a.m. the morning of the shooting. After the shooting, traveling by bike up to Central Park, then by taxi further uptown to a bus terminal where police believe he boarded a bus out of New York City. And from there, the trail goes cold.
So
He comes up over here and comes in on this part of the Port Authority. That's where the NYPD last sees him. But he could be right up here and over the George Washington Bridge and out of town on a bus pretty easily.
Absolutely, Tom. By going into this Port Authority terminal, there's nothing binding that states he needs to be in there and catch a bus. So he can be over the bridge and in the wind, and we won't know it.
The bad thing about getting all this type of publicity over this type of murder is that it's going to touch off on certain people's ideals and nerves, that you're going to have copycat deals now that's going to be perceiving the same thing, especially on predominant members of our community, regardless whether they're this or that or that or this. The next thing you know, they'll be turning this into a game, and it's cruel, it's evil, it's demonic, and it's some of the most sickest, demented things that I've ever even thought about. People turning horror and death into a game. So the more I see of what's going on planet Earth, the more I realize that the Bible is fulfilling itself towards in the last days. Satan will come down in great wrath because he knoweth his time is short. The more evidence that I continue to keep seeing, the more that I am thoroughly 1,000% convinced that we are definitely living in the last days.
Aaron Porcher is a former lieutenant with the NYPD. You're looking up at a camera, or you're looking over here at a camera on the side of a store. Walk me through the process.
This is a very unique area. We have a lot of hustle and bustle. We have far more cameras in a place like this based on the dense population as well as the commercial properties that are here.
Police are now investigating if the weapon may be a veterinary gun used to put down animals.
This is a very rare weapon. In essence, this is a needle in the haystack, but we have a lot of needles in this one haystack, which works in our favor in law enforcement to apprehend this violent assailant that's on the streets.
Police also clarified the detail about words written on shell casings, saying they were depose, delay, and deny, written in Sharpie, one word on each shell casing, a possible reference to frustration with the health insurance industry.
And Tom joins me now from where that shooting occurred on Wednesday. Tom, the investigation in this case now well beyond New York City.
Oh, that's right, Jose. The NYPD is sending its detectives to Georgia, officials say. The Atlanta Police Department says they're going to assist them back here in New York City tonight. Investigators are out in Central Park looking for more evidence and trying to find that gun. Jose?
Tom Winter in New York, thank you. And turning now overseas to Paris, where today a new era officially began for the legendary Notre Dame Cathedral, finally reopening 5 years after that devastating fire. Our Craig Melvin is there.
Jose, Notre Dame is more than just a landmark. For many, it is very much the embodiment of Paris. And just as the world watched in horror 5 years ago as flames nearly destroyed this majestic cathedral behind me, today we all watched and celebrated its return. A magnificent rebirth in the heart of Paris. 5 years after a devastating fire tore through Notre Dame Cathedral, the rebuilt Gothic landmark officially reopened today. Though,
you know, if you really put your thinking cap on, those that pay close attention to world events, it was this event here, I think I'm right, I may be wrong, but I'm throwing this out there. It was this event here that overwhelmed the earth, the earthlings, and it wasn't shortly after this event was whenever the event of COVID come into play. Now you can take that for what it's worth, pertaining to Satan will come down in the last days in great wrath because he knoweth his time is short. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind regardless of what various priests has done or didn't do, or what the Catholic association may be tainted with, God did not burn that building down to the ground. If anybody caught that building on fire, it was the Luciferian Lucifer, striking out at the earthlings, just like the disease of COVID. God didn't do that. That was the works of the devil, out to kill, steal, and destroy. It was the devil and the devil's people that was embarked up into that. But what I'm saying is, if you get to analyzing the time frames in which I don't, if I know what I was doing in front of me before I ever got to this, I'd probably already done my homework to be able to tell you for sure. But there is a very, very close time frame here that this occurrence, as well as the COVID occurrence, was very, very close together. I'm constantly deciphering things, looking at time frames, looking at dates, looking at the horrors of the date, what happened, when did it happen, where did it happen at. And, if you're constantly putting these dots together and you're seeing basically a holding pattern, well, you don't have to be all that smart to figure out, wow, we really are under attack. And, of course, if you put that under the same pretense of all the illegals, foreigners coming over to America, and then if you put into the context of what happened in Ukraine, and then if you put into the context of what happened over in Israel, you got lots of dots that's all coming together at the same time. At least the dots that happened beginning with the attack, beginning with Ruby Ridge, basically. Ruby Ridge, and then the attack on the Twin Towers, and then the event with Mount Carmel, Waco, Texas, which both of those events was pretty close. And then you had the Oklahoma event, and then you had, after that, you had another event or two, and then you had the main event pertaining to 9/11. These are all dots that I look at in time frame. And, I correspond those with prophecy out of the Bible that talks about the devil coming down in great wrath. And there's no doubt. There's absolutely no doubt. And what we're seeing is the manifestation of evil doing what it's doing, including all the drugs, including all the suicides, including all the gun violence, including everything else that's went on just within the past 30 plus years. So you can't tell me that there is not a pattern ever since the Reagans and the Bushes done what they done regarding Desert Storm and Desert Shield, that basically the world has turned upside down. Turned totally upside down. And it's really sickening to see what's going on today, because whenever I was growing up, the event that happened with Tylenol, the event that happened with the razor blades and attacks pertaining to Halloween candy, the event pertaining to various killers that they found, that was serial killers, those was bad things. Those were really, really horrible bad things. But today, it's only escalating, just like the storms is escalating. They're getting, and we're getting more of them, and they're more violent. The weather's extreme. The people's extreme. Even the animals, I guess, are extreme, pertaining to seeing sharks and whales beaching themselves and other birds, thousands of birds falling out of the sky dead. I mean, I could go on and on and on. We're living in weird times. Uncertain, weird, distressful, dangerous times.
Though not damaged by the flames, Notre Dame's bells rang again in a ceremony filled with pomp and prayer, music and singing. The ceremony started outside, with the Archbishop of Paris striking the main door of the cathedral with his staff made from burned wood recovered from the fire. The crowd giving a standing ovation to the heroic firefighters, artisans, and builders who worked tirelessly to save and restore the cathedral. The exterior lit up with merci, French for thank you.
Gratitude.
France's President Emmanuel Macron offering his praise for everyone involved. President-elect Donald Trump shaking hands with Macron after his speech. Also in attendance, First Lady Dr. Joe Biden, Prince William, and Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky. 113 banners carried in by representatives from the Diocese of Paris. Pope Francis sending his blessing through a bishop who read a letter directly from him. Once assembled inside, the blessing of the cathedral's 19th century pipe organ, which incredibly survived the devastating fire. It was April 15th, 2019. The world watched, stunned as flames chewed through.
April 15th, 2019. Let me ask my other computer here about COVID. When was the first signs of COVID over in China? What month and day and year was it? December the 31st, 2019. The World Health Organization, WHO, country office in China, is informed of several cases of pandemic and unknown etiology cases with symptoms including shortness of breath, fever, wheezing, etc. Okay, it's got another thing here. When did COVID begin? It began December 2019. Now let's back this up again.
The 800.
Back this up. Stop right there.
It was April 15th, 2019.
April 15th, 2019. And now we have less than, I guess, 8 months later, we have another global catastrophe coming out onto the scene pertaining to 1 million people being taken from us here in the United States since the first virus embarked up into our lives. But you see what I'm saying is about the closeness? I thought I was correct. I thought I was pretty close to the money in what I was talking about here. And of course, as I'm reading this, it says here different symptoms, 8 to 10 days symptoms may peak. What qualifies for starting COVID? Different things that it's talking about pertaining to the disease. But that was the first signs of it coming about. So you got April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. About 7 or 8 months after this building caught a fire is whenever COVID got introduced into all of our lives. Think about that for a second towards putting the dots together. Put that in the right perspective pertaining to looking at signs and wonders and horrors, as the Bible talks about, that all these will be the beginning sorrows that will fall upon humanity.
World watched, stunned as flames chewed through the 800-year-old cathedral. Fire crews battled for hours to save the building and the precious artifacts inside. Then, Macron's ambitious call to rebuild and reopen in just 5 years.
You know, I've never been in an 800-year-old building before. The oldest building that I've ever been in was some sort of chapel in New Mexico, and somewhere around Santa Fe, New Mexico. That was a church, a Spanish church at the time, I think, coming to an existence somewhere around 1600. That's a far cry from being 800 years old. That's unbelievable that building is still, or was still standing up until the fire. That's unbelievable. Of course, then again, you go over into the parts of the old country, and there's buildings over still standing that I guess is over 1,000 years old. They may be made out of all mortar or whatever, stone and brick or whatever, but it's just unbelievable in a building that big, that old, that was still surviving up until that fire.
Army of nearly 2,000 builders, masons, and artisans went to work.
2,000.
The result, a gleaming, reborn Notre Dame. Today's ceremony, a celebration of hope, determination, and faith. Jose, it was truly a moving and emotional experience. This will be a weekend of celebrations and ceremonies here at Notre Dame. Following today's reopening ceremony tomorrow, they will celebrate the first official mass inside this newly restored cathedral. Jose?
Craig Melvin in Paris, thank you. Before that ceremony, President-elect Trump met with France's President Macron, as well as Ukrainian President Zelensky. I want to bring in Kristen Welker, moderator of Meet the Press, who sat down with Mr. Trump for an exclusive interview airing tomorrow. And Kristen, you pressed the president-elect on his support for Ukraine?
Jose, that's right. I asked President-elect Trump if Ukraine should prepare for less aid from the United States after he's sworn into office, and his response to me was possibly. Mr. Trump also said he's actively working to end the war before the inauguration, which puts even more attention on that meeting he held today with Presidents Macron and Zelensky. Jose, a Trump transition official tells me the meeting was a very general discussion and no new ground was broken.
And Kristen, you also asked the president-elect about his domestic priorities.
Jose, I did. He confirmed NBC's reporting that he's planning to issue a flurry of executive actions on day one, including on the economy, energy, and the border. He acknowledged that some of those actions could be met with legal challenges. Notably, Jose, when I asked about his priorities for his first 100 days in office, he made it clear he also plans to focus on extending his tax cuts from 2017, which are set to expire later next year.
And Kristen, he is sticking by some of his more controversial cabinet picks.
Well, Jose, the president-elect is standing firmly behind his cabinet picks, including his embattled choice for Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. Hegseth is facing accusations of sexual misconduct and excessive drinking, which he denies. Mr. Trump told me he still has confidence in him. I also pressed him on his choice for Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, who had 2 secret meetings with Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad. The president-elect telling me he has confidence in her, too, and tells me, quote, she is a very respected person. Jose.
Kristen, thank you. A very important and timely interview, and you can catch Kristen Welker's interview with President-elect Trump tomorrow on Meet the Press. And now to stunning developments in Syria. Rebel forces there advancing at breakneck speed toward the country's capital city. A U.S. official says Damascus could soon fall. Ali Rafa reports.
Tonight, new signs Syrian President Bashar al-Assad's regime is at risk of falling. This statue of the Syrian dictator's father torn down in a suburb just 6 miles from the center of the capital city, Damascus. Since taking the country's second largest city of Aleppo last week, anti-Assad rebels have traveled south, seizing the cities of Hama and Dara, now fighting for control of Homs and trying to cut off the capital. Their fastest battleground gains since Syria's civil war began 13 years ago. The rebels, led by the Islamist group HTS, once tied to al-Qaeda and labeled a terrorist organization by the U.S. Assad's regime has survived largely on support from Russia, Iran, and one of Iran's proxies, Hezbollah in Lebanon. Rebels now exploiting Assad allies' focus being diverted elsewhere, with Hezbollah.
Is that not crazy, shooting guns up into the air like that with people everywhere around, knowing good and well that them lead bullets is going to come down, and they're not just going to hit houses, they're not just going to hit trees and cars, they're going to hit people. Them people over there are like ants. There's really no way to shoot up into the air without it taking a chance on hitting somebody. But it just goes to show you how insane that they are over there whenever it comes to safety issues. You got that going on. You got about 4 or 5 other skirmishes going on. In addition, what's going on over there with South Korea? After South Korea done what they done, that's still up in a rumble. Like I said, it's almost as if the whole world suddenly has been turned completely upside down. And to me, by me watching all this, the more radical that the people become, the more radical that the forces of nature becomes. And I've said that before on other programs that I've recorded, that it's just forever action is reaction. You know what I'm saying? And the crazier that the people get, the crazier that the weather becomes. The more unstable that societies become, the more unstable that the forces of nature becomes. If people can't see that, then they don't want to see it. They don't want to observe it and recognize it.
Heavy losses at the hands of Israel and Russia's offensive in Ukraine. Syria's government today insisting, despite rumors to the contrary, that Assad remains in Damascus and it's strengthening defenses around the capital. But this video shows Syrian soldiers in the north defecting in exchange for safety from rebels. Back in the U.S., the mother of Austin Tice, an American journalist kidnapped in Syria more than 12 years ago, says her family has received hopeful news.
That we have from a significant source that has already been vetted all over our government. Austin Tice is alive.
The family hoping the unrest in Syria creates an opportunity for Tice's release.
Ali Rafa is at the White House tonight. Ali, if the rebels do take Damascus, what happens next?
Exactly.
Well, it's unclear who would emerge as Syria's leader and what they would do, but one top concern is Syria's partial border with key U.S. ally Israel, which has begun military exercises in light of rebel forces seizing regions near the border. Jose?
Ali Rafa at the White House, thank you. Coming up, a wild chase caught on camera. That's a convicted murderer breaking free. We'll tell you how he got away. Also, drones the size of small cars.
Let's go forward here. I do want to pick up on the drones. The escapee, that's common.
So,
gonna be more and more of that, especially in other countries.
Reported in
Back up. Right there.
President-elect Donald Trump in his first interviews.
Go forward.
Ranging conversation.
Yeah, I got that. I done got that. Right here.
We're back with a growing mystery. Swarms of drones, some the size of small cars, flying at night over parts of New Jersey.
We're gonna use the category of swarms like it's a swarm of bees coming out of the sky. It's swarms, hornet's nest, swarms coming at you.
Neighborhoods on edge. And today, a new sighting over a high-ranking military meeting in California. George Solis has more.
Tonight, an aerial mystery that's been described as unnerving is growing. The FBI now investigating multiple reports of unidentified drones flying over New Jersey.
They ought to make it a law that if you see one of them that hasn't identified itself clearly in what it is, whether or not it's a military drone or a police drone that's doing official business, they ought to make it a law. Anybody that sees one of them flying around, shoot it out of the sky. Hit it. All it takes is one little bullet clipping one of its wings or something else on the drone. Next thing you know, it's going to fall to the ground. It's going to be nothing but pieces. Like I said earlier, they're going to have to come up with some sort of strategy in either executing higher fines or putting people in jail of flying these things in areas that they shouldn't be flying them in. And you know good and well, if they're having a Pentagon meeting, you ain't supposed to be flying over that area. I'm surprised that they didn't shoot it down.
Some as large as a small car. And today, a large drone seen here, also described as the size of a small vehicle, flying over a California event where Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin was in attendance.
More drones in the sky. Rockaway, New Jersey.
The New Jersey drones, initially spotted in the northern part of the state, now being reported further south. Sightings also now being reported in New York City.
Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. And that's recently. You tell me we ain't got a problem? That to me, whenever it comes to safety and health issues, that to me that's number one priority towards our government officials should intervene some way or another towards lawmakers coming down with some sort of new policy laws about these things. Because if you don't watch, everybody's going to have one, and it's going to be basically nothing but total chaos. You're going to be able to spy on your neighbor. You're going to be able to fly in behind your neighbor's apartment and see your neighbor out there sun tanning or doing whatever. I mean, it's just it's endless of the problems that it could create, in addition to the problems with the aviation. Endless.
Staten Island Borough President Vito Fossella calling on the FAA and FBI to expand their investigation.
People have seen a number of 15-foot or so wingspan drones hovering around. In this day and age, I just don't think that that's something you take lightly. If it is nothing to be concerned about, someone should come forward and say that.
Residents alarmed by the number of sightings.
One would go over, and then the next one would come, and then the next one, and the next one. So it wasn't like there would be 20 coming at one time.
Jonathan Lace, a pilot himself, shot this shocking video overnight of multiple car-sized drones near the Essex County, New Jersey airport. So concerned by what he saw, he contacted the FAA.
What's been probably the most alarming thing to you?
As a pilot, I can tell you that, when you're about to land, the last thing you want to see is something hovering in front of you.
What is that?
With many questions and few answers, residents and officials alike on high alert as the mystery in the sky deepens. George Solis, NBC News, New York.
It is no mystery. It is people up to no good. It is malice behavior. That you put enough of them up in the sky, enough people doing them, somebody's going to badly get injured or hurt. And we're talking about taking down a big airplane with 300 or 400 people on it. And to think that we was lax enough that we didn't put our foot down on this problem, knowing that it's a problem. It's kind of like we're just now really putting our foot down pertaining to all the illegal aliens that's coming over. Well, Donald Trump put his foot down back about 4 or 5 years ago. But that foot that's dropping now that Donald Trump talks about should have been dropped 10 years ago of stopping this before it ever got this far out of hand. You nip it at the bud. Because I guarantee you, if you give somebody an inch, they're going to take a mile. And it's that way with just about anything. You give them an inch, odds are they're going to take a mile. So whenever people start dying on account of our law enforcement policymakers that's not willing to get off their rear ends and do something about these problems, well, then you know who the true problem is. Just like the problem with all the illegal fentanyl, all the illegal drugs, all the illegal aliens. People should be held accountable for allowing for these things to come into our lives this way. People should be held accountable for not doing their jobs as far as dereliction. Why are we paying these people and putting them in these high-ranking positions if they're not going to be doing their jobs effectively and efficiently towards protecting the people. That's what I don't understand. Plus the fact of so many people has gotten away with this for the past 30 plus years of seeing delinquency after delinquency after delinquency. When is the people going to awaken? Is the $64,000 million question.
When we come back, there's good news tonight. The big surprise that brought this beloved school custodian to tears.
Let's watch this. Let's see what this is about real quick. Try to end this on a good note.
In Texas. Jim had cafeteria after him to honor his 51 years of service.
Going to now be known as Watkins Cafe.
Mr. Watkins moved to tears.
Proud of it.
In Texas, it wasn't Santa, but another legend spreading joy.
I have the gift for you, $500.
Basketball superstar Shaquille O'Neal giving out $500 gift cards at a Texas J.C. Penney.
$500 gift card, brother. Merry Christmas.
Shocking shoppers Laura and Wendell Garrett. But that money, the Garretts are paying it forward, giving every cent to a favorite charity helping those in need.
It didn't even dawn on us to buy anything for ourselves. We're just going to bless others.
There's people close around you that are struggling, that need just a little bit of help, that would make the world a difference to them.
And this was an early holiday blessing one family will never forget. Loved ones surprising 10-year-old Colson Delp by decorating the family's Las Vegas area home for Christmas.
It's a big tree.
Colson's Little League team there to support him too as he battles cancer. For Mom Samantha and firefighter Dad Chasen, that show of support means the world. So, what was it like when you arrived and there is so much love?
Colson's just bawling. You could see all the people standing there caroling and neighbors and friends. The community just pulled together.
Chase, a lot of things that are difficult are made less difficult when you have family and friends behind you.
Yeah, absolutely.
What does that mean to each one of you?
It means everything. We definitely couldn't do this alone.
This is Christmas magic. This is what Christmas is meant to be.
Happy New Year.
And
that was a good ending. We needed that to prove that the world has not gone just totally bananas, and there are still some good measures in the world with good people. Thanks again for listening. Good luck to all of us. God bless America. God bless our troops. I hope everybody enjoyed Thanksgiving. Christmas now is, about 17, 18 days away. Basically about 3 weeks away. And I wish everybody a very pleasant, happy Christmas. God bless and shalom.